So for the first time in what feels like a long time, we've actually got some good news coming out of American politics. Now, when it comes to the state of Vermont, they are the first state that voted to legalize recreational marijuana. So any other time that recreational pot has been legalized, well, it was subjected to a referendum. But in this instance, marijuana is being legalized legislatively. So this is a new thing, and it's a big win for proponents of cannabis legalization. So Salon explains, Vermont became the first state to pass legislation legalizing the recreational use of marijuana through its legislature today. Colorado and 8 other states have similarly moved to decriminalize the drug, but always through state referenda or other maneuvers. This marks the first true legislative victory for marijuana advocates in the U.S. The bill, which passed through the Vermont House of Representatives with a 76-66 vote, would legalize small amounts of cannabis possession starting in 2018 and establish a taxed and regulated market for the illicit drug. Having already passed the state's Senate, the bill is now headed for the desk of Republican Governor Phil Scott, a marijuana skeptic. A recent poll found that 57% of Vermonters asked would approve of legalizing marijuana for recreational use. Lieutenant Governor David Zuckerman said that the fact that the state legislature was able to push the bill through shows how in touch the governing body is with Vermont's people. I think it reflects that Vermont elected officials are more in touch with our constituents than a lot of elected officials in other states, he told the Free Press. Zuckerman added, I think the public is ahead of us, but elected officials tend to be cautious when it comes to change. The Vermont legislature had previously legalized medical marijuana in 2004, with a further expansion in 2007. In 2013, the state made minor possession a misdemeanor offense. So this is great news. However, now we're all crossing our fingers hoping that the Republican governor signs this bill into law. And if he doesn't, he's just subverting democracy, because if a majority of your voters want you to legalize it, then do it. And I really will never understand why politicians on both sides of the aisle refuse to get behind this, because this is a win-win-win. You have a majority of the country on board with medical and recreational marijuana. You have a majority of conservative Republicans who are younger on board with recreational marijuana. So you have nothing to lose by embracing something that's inevitably going to be the law of the land. I don't know how long or when it's going to pass, but we know that marijuana will be legal, recreationally so, in all 50 states one day. It's just a matter of time. And, we saw that with Colorado and Washington passing it. 2 years later, we had Oregon and Alaska pass it, and Washington, D.C., and then we had Maine and California 2 years later. So, it just... more and more states continue to legalize recreational marijuana. More and more states continue to legalize medical marijuana. So if he doesn't sign it, then this would be incredibly angering. And I hope that every single person in Vermont takes the time to call their governor and let him know that he has to pass it. You can't ignore what voters want. You can't ignore what people in Vermont want and what their representatives and senators were voted to do, and that is represent their interests. So this is really great news coming out of Vermont. They are a great state. Let's hope that it passes or gets signed. It passed, but let's hope it gets signed. And if not, then I'd say this to all of you cannabis advocates out there: put it on the ballot. It's a guaranteed victory. Now I don't know, what your state's laws are regarding ballots. I know that every state is different on, referendums and whatnot and the criteria for putting something up to a vote. But I think that this is an issue that if it's not legalized, if the governor refuses to sign it, then it will be legal someday. But it's still frustrating that you make this progress and you want to see the results. But the good news is that he's just a skeptic. A skeptic is better than someone who is like Jeff Sessions, who think people are bad if they smoke marijuana. It's just complete nonsense, and that that reefer madness era is over. We have the internet, we have access to information. We saw the medical studies that continuously prove that there are medical benefits of marijuana, and it's not harmful. It's less harmful than alcohol. So if you're going to keep that legal, and if you're going to support the legalization of alcohol, then you should support marijuana. Otherwise, you're just a hypocrite. So again, let's celebrate this victory, because this is a win for progressives. This is a win for most people in the country. And the momentum for marijuana will continue. Make no mistake about it.
Smoke weed every day.
Support this podcast by joining the independent progressive media revolution today at humanistreport.com.